Alien students panicked the moment a Deathworlder walked into gym class. The Galactic Academy's gymnasium fell into an eerie silence as Marcus Chen stepped through the reinforced doors. 23 alien students from across the galaxy froze mid-exercise, their various appendages, tentacles, and limbs stopping whatever movement they had been performing. The only sound was the soft hum of the artificial gravity generators and Marcus's sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. Marcus adjusted his standard-issue Academy tracksuit and looked around the massive space. The gymnasium was easily 3 times the size of any sports facility back on Earth, with equipment he couldn't even begin to identify. Floating platforms hovered at different heights. Strange geometric obstacles pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. And what appeared to be a swimming pool filled with purple liquid bubbled ominously in one corner. Hi everyone, Marcus said with a wave, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. I'm Marcus, new student. A collective shudder rippled through the assembled aliens. A tall, crystalline being that looked like it was made of living glass took 3 careful steps backward. Its faceted head caught the light as it turned to whisper something to a furry, 6-armed creature beside it. The physical education instructor, Professor Zelnok, was a Thurian with rubbery green skin and 4 eyes mounted on independently moving stalks. 2 of those eyes were currently fixed on Marcus, while the other 2 scanned the retreating students with obvious concern. "Class," Professor Zelnak announced, his voice carrying the wet, gurgling quality typical of his species. "We have a new addition to our fitness program. This is Marcus Chen, a human from the Deathworld designated Earth." The word Deathworld sent another wave of panic through the group. A small purple creature that resembled a cross between a mouse and a jellyfish actually fainted, floating gently to the ground like a deflated balloon. Its companions quickly surrounded it, producing what appeared to be smelling salts from somewhere within their translucent bodies. Marcus frowned. "Deathworld? Earth isn't that bad. I mean, sure, we have some dangerous animals and weather, but—" "Dangerous animals?" interrupted a voice that sounded like wind chimes in a hurricane. The speaker was Crixtall, a being that looked like a collection of floating geometric shapes held together by some invisible force. "Your planet has creatures called sharks that are essentially living weapons with teeth. And bears," added another student, this one resembling a walking flower with dozens of colorful petals instead of a head. "Massive predators that can run faster than our fastest vehicles." Marcus scratched his head. "Well, yeah, but humans don't usually fight bears. We just stay away from them." "Stay away?" The crystalline being's voice cracked like breaking glass. "Our research indicates that humans on Earth regularly engage in something called extreme sports, where they deliberately put themselves in mortal danger for entertainment." "Oh, you mean like skydiving and rock climbing?" Marcus asked. "Those are just hobbies." "They're fun." The gymnasium erupted in a cacophony of alien languages as students began frantically discussing this revelation among themselves. Professor Zelnak's eye stalks swiveled wildly as he tried to maintain order. "Students, please, let us proceed with today's exercises." The professor consulted a floating holographic display. "Today, we will be practicing basic cardiovascular conditioning and strength assessment." A sleek, silver being with too many joints in its arms raised what might have been a hand. "Professor, perhaps the humans should observe today, for safety reasons?" Marcus felt a flash of irritation. "I can handle whatever exercises you throw at me. I've been working out since I was in middle school." "Working out," repeated the flower-like alien slowly. "You mean you deliberately stress your body beyond its normal limits?" "Every day," Marcus confirmed proudly. "Well, 6 days a week. I take Sundays off." Several students made sounds that Marcus assumed were either prayers or expressions of horror. Professor Zelnak's eye stalks rotated toward Marcus. Very well. Let us begin with something simple. A basic endurance test. Students, please take your positions on the mobile platforms. The alien students moved to what looked like treadmills, but the surfaces constantly shifted and changed angle, requiring constant balance adjustments. Marcus watched as they began what could generously be called a light jog. Their pace was roughly equivalent to a leisurely walk for a human child. "Is this the warm-up?" Marcus asked. "This is the primary exercise," Professor Zelnak replied. "Students will maintain this pace for 10 standard minutes." Marcus nodded and stepped onto an available platform. The surface immediately began shifting beneath his feet, but his years of playing sports had given him excellent balance. He started jogging at what he considered a comfortable pace. Within 30 seconds, he had lapped every other student on the track. "Impossible," breathed the crystalline being as Marcus passed him for the second time. "No creature can maintain that velocity." Marcus wasn't even breathing hard. In fact, this was easier than the morning runs he did back home through San Francisco's hills. "Should I slow down?" he called out to Professor Zelnak. The professor's eye stalks were now crossed as he stared at his holographic readings. "The sensors indicate you are barely using 15% of your cardiovascular capacity." "Sounds about right," Marcus agreed, still jogging comfortably. "This is pretty relaxing, actually." That was when Vixna, the 6-armed furry student, collapsed. She lay panting on her platform, her fur matted with what Marcus assumed was sweat. "I cannot continue," she gasped. "My hearts are failing." Marcus immediately stopped running and hopped off his platform, causing several students to scramble away from him. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" "Stay back, Deathworlder," shrieked the purple mouse jellyfish, which had apparently recovered from its earlier fainting spell. "Your very presence is increasing our stress hormones." Marcus raised his hands in what he hoped was a peaceful gesture. "I'm just trying to help." "Help?" The flower being's petals were now a deep red color that Marcus suspected indicated extreme agitation. "You just demonstrated the ability to run at speeds that would kill most of us. Your planet has conditioned you for constant warfare against your environment." Professor Zelnak waved his arms, which made wet slapping sounds. "Class dismissed. Everyone return to your dormitories and engage in calming meditation." The alien students fled the gymnasium in a panic, some floating, some scuttling, some teleporting away in flashes of light. Within moments, Marcus found himself alone with the professor. "Did I do something wrong?" Marcus asked. Professor Zelnak's eye stalks sagged. "Young human, in the 500 years this academy has been operating, we have never had a student from a Class 12 death world. Your species' physical capabilities are concerning to the other students." "Class 12? What does that mean?" "It means your planet is so hostile that simply surviving childhood there would qualify you as an elite warrior on most civilized worlds." The professor's expression was unreadable, but his tone was exhausted. "Perhaps we should schedule separate physical education sessions for you." Marcus felt his shoulders slump. He had been looking forward to making friends at the academy, but it seemed like his mere existence terrified his classmates. "I don't want to be separated from everyone else. I just want to fit in." Professor Zelnak approached cautiously, as if Marcus might suddenly explode. "Fitting in may require adjustments on both sides. Tomorrow, we will attempt a different approach, perhaps starting with meditation and flexibility exercises." As Marcus left the gymnasium, he could hear excited chatter echoing through the corridors. Word was already spreading throughout the academy about the human who had effortlessly outperformed everyone in physical education. He had the sinking feeling that tomorrow's class would be even more eventful than today's. Walking back to his dormitory, Marcus passed groups of alien students who immediately quieted when they saw him. Some pressed themselves against the walls to give him a wide berth, while others simply turned and walked in the opposite direction. He was beginning to understand that being human in a galaxy full of peaceful aliens was going to be more complicated than he had ever imagined. Alien students panicked. Part 2. Marcus arrived at the gymnasium the next day to find it had been completely transformed. Gone were the challenging obstacle courses and floating platforms. Instead, the space now resembled a meditation garden, complete with soft, glowing orbs that hummed gentle melodies and cushioned mats arranged in precise patterns on the floor. Only half the students from yesterday's class were present, and they had positioned themselves as far away from the entrance as possible. Marcus noticed several were wearing what appeared to be protective gear, including what looked like tiny shields and breathing apparatus. Professor Zelnak approached with 3 of his 4 eye stalks pointed at Marcus while the 4th kept watch on the nervous students. "Today we will focus on low-impact activities," he announced. "Breathing exercises, gentle stretching, and meditation." Marcus nodded and moved toward an empty mat. The mere act of walking caused a ripple of movement as students shifted away from his path. He sat down cross-legged and tried to look as non-threatening as possible. "Let us begin with basic respiratory control," Professor Zelnak instructed. "Inhale slowly for a count of 5, hold for 3, then exhale for 7. Marcus followed along, though the exercise felt almost absurdly easy compared to his usual workout routine. Around him, the alien students were taking the breathing exercise very seriously. Some were using electronic devices to monitor their heart rates, while others had their eyes closed in deep concentration. Crixtal, the geometric floating being, suddenly let out what sounded like a mechanical scream. Its shapes were flashing rapidly between different colors. "The human's breathing is generating massive atmospheric disturbance." Marcus looked around, confused. "I'm just breathing normally." "Normally?" wheezed Vixena, the 6-armed furry student. "Your lung capacity is creating pressure waves. You're changing the air composition in our immediate vicinity." Professor Zelnak checked his readings again, his eye stalks crossing in what Marcus was beginning to recognize as his confused expression. "The human's respiratory system is indeed processing 3 times the volume of atmosphere as the rest of the class combined." "Should I breathe less?" Marcus asked, which caused several students to make alarmed noises. "Please don't hold your breath," called out a student who looked like a walking cactus with eyes. "Our xenobiology texts suggest that Deathworlders can enter combat hibernation states when they stop breathing." Marcus sighed, which created another wave of panic. "I'm not going into any hibernation state. I just exhaled." Professor Zelnak waved his arms for attention. "Perhaps we should move on to flexibility exercises. Everyone please assume the relaxation position." The alien students arranged themselves in various poses that Marcus assumed were their species' equivalent of lying down. Some floated horizontally, others spread their appendages wide, and a few seemed to partially deflate. "Now," Professor Zelnak continued, "we will perform gentle stretching movements. Extend one appendage slowly to its comfortable limit." Marcus lay on his back and brought one knee toward his chest, a basic stretch he had learned in elementary school. Around him, the aliens were making tiny, careful movements with their various limbs. That was when disaster struck. The flower-like student, attempting to extend one of its petal arms, lost its balance and toppled over. Marcus instinctively rolled to his side and caught the falling alien before it hit the ground. The gymnasium erupted in chaos. "The Deathworlder has captured Polynara!" someone shrieked. "It's demonstrating its hunting reflexes!" wailed another. "Those are predator instincts!" the crystalline being chimed in alarm. Marcus gently helped Polynara back to an upright position. "Are you okay? You were about to fall." Polynara's petals had turned a pale yellow color and were trembling. "You moved so fast," it whispered. "One moment you were on the ground, The next, you had intercepted my fall trajectory. How did you calculate the physics so quickly? I didn't calculate anything, Marcus explained. I just saw you falling and caught you. It's called a reflex. Professor Zelnak approached cautiously. Reflexes are automatic response systems designed for survival situations, he said slowly. Your species has developed reflexes for catching falling objects? Well, yeah. Also for ducking when things are thrown at us, pulling our hands back from hot surfaces, blinking when stuff gets near our eyes. Marcus trailed off as he realized the entire class was staring at him in horror. Your entire nervous system is weaponized, breathed Vixna. It's not weaponized, Marcus protested. These are just normal human responses. Krixtal's geometric shapes were now pulsing in frantic patterns. We need to consult the combat databases. This human may be a military operative. I'm a 17-year-old high school student, Marcus said, standing up quickly in frustration. His sudden movement caused every alien in the room to either flee, freeze, or activate what appeared to be personal defense systems. The cactus-like student sprouted additional spines, Pollen Ara's petals turned bright red, and several others simply vanished in flashes of light. Professor Zelnak's voice took on an official tone. Marcus Chen, please report to the Academy's Xenopsychology Department for evaluation. Evaluation for what? To determine if you pose a threat to the student body. Marcus felt his heart sink. This was his second day at the most prestigious educational institution in the galaxy, and he was already being sent for psychological evaluation because his classmates couldn't handle basic human biology. Professor, he said carefully, I don't want to hurt anyone. I'm just trying to participate in gym class. The intention to harm is not the issue, Professor Zelnak replied. Your species' baseline capabilities appear to exceed our safety parameters for student interaction. As Marcus left the gymnasium for the second day in a row, he passed a group of alien students huddled in the corridor. They were speaking in hushed tones, but his human hearing easily picked up their conversation. Did you see how it moved? Like a predator tracking prey. And those reflexes! It could probably catch a projectile weapon in mid-flight. I heard humans can go without sleep for days when they're hunting. My doormate told me they can survive injuries that would kill most civilized species. Why did the Academy admit a Deathworlder? This violates every safety protocol. Marcus walked faster, his face burning with embarrassment and frustration. He had come to the Galactic Academy hoping to learn about other species and make friends across the stars. Instead, he seemed to be a walking panic button for everyone he met. The Xenopsychology Department was located in the Academy's medical wing, a sterile white corridor lined with rooms designed for treating dozens of different alien physiologies. Marcus found the right office and knocked on the door. Enter, came a voice from inside. The xenopsychologist was Dr. Helix, a serpentine alien with iridescent scales and multiple arms that could apparently bend in any direction. She gestured for Marcus to sit in a chair that automatically adjusted to his human proportions. So, Dr. Helix said, consulting a holographic display, you've caused 2 major incidents in 2 days simply by attending physical education class. I didn't mean to cause any incidents, Marcus said. I was just trying to exercise. Dr. Helix's large eyes studied him carefully. Tell me, Marcus, what is considered normal physical activity for a human your age? Marcus thought about his routine back home. Well, I usually run about 3 miles every morning, then I have soccer practice after school. On weekends, I go rock climbing with my dad, and sometimes we go hiking in the mountains. Dr. Helix made notes on her display. And this level of activity is required for humans to maintain health. Required? No, not really. I mean, humans need some exercise to stay healthy, but I just enjoy pushing myself. Some of my friends are way more active than I am. More active? Dr. Helix repeated slowly. There are humans who exceed your physical capabilities? Sure. Olympic athletes, military people, extreme sports enthusiasts. I'm pretty average for someone who plays sports. Dr. Helix set down her stylus and leaned back in her chair. Marcus, I need you to understand something about the galactic community. Most species evolved on worlds that were relatively peaceful. Abundant resources, few predators, stable climates. Physical fitness for us means being able to walk for extended periods without fatigue. What about fighting? Wars? Competition? Most conflicts in galactic society are resolved through negotiation, economic pressure, or at worst, technological superiority. Personal physical combat has been obsolete for millennia in civilized space. Marcus began to understand the scope of the problem. So when I do normal human things, you demonstrate capabilities that most species associate with ancient warrior castes or elite military units. Dr. Helix pulled up a holographic comparison chart. Your performance yesterday showed cardiovascular efficiency rates equivalent to our most advanced combat androids. The room fell silent as Marcus processed this information. He wasn't just different from his classmates, he was fundamentally incompatible with their entire concept of normal existence. So what happens now? He asked quietly. Dr. Helix smiled, an expression that looked somewhat alarming on her serpentine features. Now we figure out how to help you make friends without accidentally terrifying them. Alien students panicked. Part 3. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood outside the gymnasium doors, but this time he wasn't alone. Dr. Helix had spent countless hours working with both him and the alien students to develop what she called integration protocols. Today would be the test of whether humans and the rest of the galaxy could actually coexist in the same physical space. The gymnasium had been redesigned again, but this time with input from Marcus himself. Instead of trying to make him fit into alien exercise routines, they had created activity stations where different species could participate according to their capabilities while still working together. Marcus entered to find his classmates already present, but their body language was different now. Instead of cowering in terror, they watched him with what appeared to be curious fascination. Several even offered tentative greetings. "Good morning, Marcus," called Pollinara, whose petals were now a confident orange color. "Are you ready for today's collaborative exercises?" Professor Zelnak approached with his usual eye-stalk coordination. "Today we will be attempting team-based activities. Each group will contain students of different species, working together to solve physical challenges." Dr. Helix had explained the strategy to Marcus during their preparation sessions. Instead of trying to hide his capabilities, they would frame them as specialized skills that could benefit the entire group. The alien students had undergone their own counseling to understand that Marcus's abilities weren't aggressive in nature, but rather adaptations to his home environment. "Marcus," Professor Zelnak announced, "you will be working with Crixtal, Vixna, and Pollinara. Your first challenge is the multi-species obstacle navigation course." The course looked like something from an alien game show. There were barriers too high for some species to climb over, gaps too wide for others to jump, and delicate mechanical puzzles that required precise manipulation. It was designed so that no single species could complete it alone. Marcus approached his teammates, who no longer backed away from him but still maintained what Dr. Helix called respectful distance. "Okay," Marcus said, studying the course. "Let's figure out what each of us does best." Crixtal's geometric shapes rearranged themselves into what Marcus had learned was an expression of concentration. "I can phase through the energy barriers and manipulate the quantum locks on the far side. I can reach the high activation switches with my arms," Vixna added, her 6 limbs gesturing at targets mounted near the ceiling. Pollinara's petals rustled softly. "My root system can detect the pressure-sensitive floor panels without triggering the weight sensors. And I can carry everyone to places they can't reach on their own," Marcus concluded. For the first time since arriving at the academy, his classmates didn't look horrified at the mention of his physical capabilities. "You mean we could use your strength as a tool for cooperation rather than domination?" Vixna asked. "That's the idea." They approached the first obstacle, a wall about 12 feet high with handholds that were spaced for much longer alien limbs. Marcus knelt down and cupped his hands. "Vixna, if I boost you up, can you reach that control panel?" Vixna hesitated for only a moment before placing one of her hands in Marcus's palms. He lifted her easily to the wall's top, where she activated a mechanism that lowered a platform for the others. "Incredible," breathed Crixtal. "You lifted her as if she weighed nothing." "She basically does weigh nothing," Marcus replied. "Earth gravity is about 3 times what you're used to. Everything here feels light to me." As they progressed through the course, something remarkable began to happen. The other teams stopped their own activities to watch Marcus's group work together. Instead of fear, Marcus saw curiosity and even admiration in their expressions. At the next obstacle, Pollinara needed to extend its root system across a delicate sensor field without triggering the alarms. The problem was that the distance was too far for the plant-like alien to span safely. "What if I carry you?" Marcus suggested. "You could keep your roots extended while I move you across." "You would trust me not to accidentally harm you with my thorns?" Pollinara asked. "When I extend my roots, I cannot control the defensive spines." Marcus shrugged. "I've been scratched by thorns before. It's not a big deal." What followed was a delicate ballet as Marcus slowly carried Pollinara across the sensor field, allowing the alien to maintain root contact with the safe zones while navigating the dangerous areas. When Pollinara's defensive thorns did scratch Marcus's arms, he didn't even flinch. "Does that not cause you pain?" Crixtal asked in amazement. Marcus looked at the small scratches on his forearms. "Sure, but it's minor pain. Humans have a pretty high pain tolerance compared to most species, apparently." By the time they reached the final challenge, a crowd had gathered. Students from other physical education classes had come to watch the unprecedented cooperation between a human and aliens. The last obstacle required precise timing, multiple simultaneous actions, and perfect trust between team members. Marcus would need to throw Crixtal through an energy field at the exact moment Vixna activated the barrier controls and Pollinara disabled the floor sensors. "Are you certain you can calculate the trajectory accurately?" Crixtal asked. Marcus grinned. "I've been throwing things accurately since I was 5 years old. Baseball, football, basketball. Humans are really good at calculating projectile motion." "Your species weaponized mathematics," Vixna observed, but her tone was now admiring rather than terrified. "I prefer to think of it as applied physics for fun." The throw was perfect. Crixtal sailed through the energy field at precisely the right moment, landing safely on the other side to activate the final mechanism. The course completion chime echoed through the gymnasium, followed immediately by what Marcus realized was alien applause. Students from dozens of species were cheering, clicking, humming, and flashing in appreciation. Professor Zelnak's eye stalks were doing what Marcus had learned was the equivalent of a smile. "Excellent work, team," the professor announced. "You have achieved the fastest completion time in Academy history." As they walked off the course, Marcus found himself surrounded by alien students who were no longer afraid to approach him. "Marcus," called the crystalline being who had been so terrified on the first day, "could you teach us about human throwing techniques? For recreational purposes, of course. And perhaps you could explain how your species developed such remarkable balance," added another student. "I've been researching Earth sports," Vixna said excitedly. "This game called basketball seems to combine many of the skills we observed today." Marcus felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with physical exertion. For the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt like he belonged. Dr. Helix approached the group, her serpentine features arranged in what he now recognized as satisfaction. It appears the integration has been successful. More than successful, Professor Zelnak added. I believe we may need to redesign our entire physical education curriculum. Today's exercises demonstrated that interspecies cooperation can achieve far more than any single species working alone. As the class ended and students began filing out, Marcus noticed something that made him smile. Instead of fleeing his presence, his classmates were clustering around him, asking questions about Earth, human physiology, and whether he might be willing to help them with their own fitness goals. Marcus, Pollinara said quietly, its petals now a warm golden color. I owe you an apology. When you first arrived, we saw your capabilities and assumed you were dangerous. We failed to consider that those same capabilities could make you an invaluable ally. You don't need to apologize, Marcus replied. I understand why you were scared. I just wish someone had explained earlier that being strong doesn't automatically make someone violent. Crixtal's shapes pulsed in a pattern Marcus had learned indicated deep thought. Perhaps that is a lesson the galaxy needs to learn. We have become so accustomed to peace that we forgot the difference between capability and intention. As Marcus walked back to his dormitory, he passed groups of alien students who now waved and called out greetings. Some were even asking if he wanted to join study groups or attend social events. The corridor was filled with excited chatter about the day's exercises, and Marcus caught fragments of conversations in dozens of alien languages. What struck him most was the tone had completely changed. Instead of whispered fears about the dangerous Deathworlder, students were discussing collaboration techniques and expressing curiosity about human capabilities. That evening, Marcus received a message on his Academy communication device. It was from the Dean of Students, requesting a meeting to discuss the possibility of Marcus serving as a cultural ambassador between humans and the galactic community. Sitting in his dormitory room, looking out at the Academy's courtyard, where alien students from hundreds of worlds studied together peacefully, Marcus reflected on how much had changed in just a few weeks. He had come to the Academy hoping to learn about other species, but instead, he had taught them something about his own. The next day's physical education class was scheduled to include students from 3 different year levels. Word had spread throughout the Academy about the successful integration exercises, and Professor Zelnak had received requests from dozens of other students who wanted to participate in collaborative activities with the human. Marcus smiled as he prepared for bed. Tomorrow, instead of being the terrifying Deathworlder who panicked his classmates, he would be the teammate they wanted to work with. It had taken some time, but he had finally found his place in the galaxy. The universe was vast and full of different species with different capabilities, but Marcus had learned that the most important skill of all was the ability to work together, despite those differences. And perhaps, he thought as he drifted off to sleep, that was the most human trait of all.